Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker Podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by editor of the Wolfpacker.com and fellow co-host Matt Carter, and we are going to break down NC State's 24-9 loss to Syracuse. State drops to 5-2 on the season. We'll get into all the details, including the biggest news of the day, which was broken before the game, that Devin Leary is going to miss the rest of the season. So obviously a very disheartening day for NC State football fans, but we'll talk about just our thoughts on the game itself and maybe some food for thought, just some instant reactions to what was a big day for how this 2022 season is going to unravel for the Wolfpack. But before we get into all that good stuff and Matt and I start talking ball, just some quick reminders for the listeners and viewers at home. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play. Plus, you can always watch us on our YouTube channel, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment while you're at it. A reason to go check out the YouTube channel. You can watch us on YouTube, and you can see Matt's spooky Halloween-themed background, which really kind of, honestly, really kind of sets the mood for, NC State football, the NC State football community right now. He's wearing a red shirt. He's got the spooky lighting in the background, and it looks like he's worked a really long day. So I think if you saw Matt Carter right now, I think he speaks for a lot of NC State fans. But anyways, follow us on social media at the Wolfpacker on Twitter. You can follow me personally at Justin H. Will. Head over to the Wolfpacker.com and take advantage of a special deal for just $10. You can get premium subscription to the Wolfpacker.com and the On3 network for just $10. Gets you through the beginning of next football season. I think we're going to have a little maybe interesting side conversation about some implications for next season based on what happened today. This premium subscription would take you through the end of next August. So a lot will unfold over those several months, almost a year. Might as well spend the $10 now. Head over to the Wolfpacker.com to take advantage of that deal. And last but not least, thank you to our sponsor, RogueShop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com for all of your CBD and Delta 8 needs. They've got gummies, tinctures, oils, cartridges, lotions, bath soaps, all kinds of good stuff at RogueShop.com. So head over there right now. Husband and wife outfit. The husband, founder of the of RogueShop.com, is a disabled veteran. Was turned on to these products to help with some of his symptoms, including pain, stress, anxiety, trouble sleeping. I'm sure a lot of those symptoms might sound familiar to NC State fans. Well, he was turned on to CBD products, and they've really helped with all of those symptoms for better health and wellness using natural products. So head over to RogueShop.com and check out some of those products. If you're if you're interested in these products, but you've never used these products before, or you're curious to learn more about them, head over there. They've got a great chat feature on RogueShop.com, and they can point you in the right direction for everything that you need from them. So thank you to our sponsor. Go support them. They support us. So RogueShop.com. Head over there now. Okay, Matt, let's talk about the day that unfolded. Do you want to start with the game itself, or do you want to start with the bombshell elephant in the room that is Devin Leary now out for the season? We've had two podcasts now since he went out in the Florida State game, and the post-game reflections podcast, and we had the Syracuse preview podcast where we talked about Leary's injury and how the x-rays were negative on the Saturday of the Florida State game, which was early reason for optimism, and that this was something that we expected maybe a month and a half, return to the season. Didn't sound like a season-ending injury. Dave Doran on Monday kind of expressed what seemed to be some optimism in the fact that, Leary could be back as soon as a week. He could be back in 5 weeks. It's just kind of we're just taking it day by day. Well, as the events unturned, unraveled rather. Uh, he finds out the news that it's a torn pectoral muscle that's going to require season-ending surgery. So that was kept under wraps through today, Saturday, I guess, to help kind of a little bit of gamesmanship with Syracuse, keep them guessing as to what they were going to throw at the Orange on offense. But Matt, just how did the news break? How did the day unfold for you with the Leary news, and just kind of your instant reaction to that news? Was it a surprise to you?
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie and say it wasn't a surprise. I actually got a text. Oh, I don't know when exactly the time was on it. But I got a text that said, hey, just getting a heads up that Devin Leary was out for the season, torn pectoral muscle. It was certainly someone I trusted, so I immediately tried to put it on Twitter. Honored, I think it was really simultaneously almost, or within seconds of each other, the NC State football was putting the announcement on Twitter as well. Um, so that's kind of how we all found out, frankly, probably should have done a little bit more digging during the week. I just left with the impression Monday that it was kind of the hope would be that he could rehab it and then get the range of motion back and the pain tolerance back. And now what we've since learned is that was actually the expectation going into Monday. And then, not long after Dave Dorn talked to the media Monday is when he found out that, a kind of, you would call it, upon further review, if for the loyal listeners of the podcast,
Right.
that, they looked a little bit more at it and looked at it closer and determined the best option was to have a surgery, which will be done next week. And that is where the gamesmanship really started to amp up, I guess you could say, and they didn't want to let Syracuse know what's going to happen. But, you get clarity. I mean, there's no reason to have for the rest of this year it's definitely coming back this week, Jack Chambers knows that he's going to get the first opportunity to run the show. I thought he did some good things in second half. Bye week comes at a real good time. And if Jack Chambers can't get it done, you get a chance to get MJ Morris in there, and now you get an opportunity, I think, over the next few weeks to see what Devin Leary wants to do with his future, and you'll have a better idea what the quarterback position is going to look like next year as well. So,
Right.
those are some very minor consolations, though, to the overarching problem of this is a devastating blow, especially to the passing game, and you saw why you missed him today against Syracuse. Even though I thought Jack Chambers did some nice things second half, you saw why Devin Leary clearly was NC State's best option at quarterback, and he's going to be missed. You hate it for him too. Second time in 3 years he's been lost, and you just hope he doesn't get tagged with the injury prone. I mean, they're really kind of two fluky contact play incidents. One slid awkwardly, broke a leg while being hit. The other, just kind of an awkward moment of where he got hit while throwing the football.
It's a contact sport.
Yep, and it's not a guy who had, those are just two. It's not like he's had multiple knee injuries or multiple ankle injuries, or they're just kind of two kind of freakish injuries. So hopefully he doesn't get tagged with that, and hopefully it comes to full recovery. As a Panthers fan, Justin, it was a hard hit that Cam Newton took on his shoulder that pretty much took away any arm strength he had at the first end of his Panthers tenure. And then again with the
It wasn't
Patriots.
his shoulder; it was his pec.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. This is not a shoulder injury. It's not a throwing arm injury. It's a partially torn pec. I think the wise thing for Devin to do is come back. I don't think he put enough on film this year to put him position to be drafted very high in what should be a very good quarterback's year for the NFL draft. So I think it'd be in his best interest to come back, but obviously he's older. This is his 5th year in college, so all those things come into play too. Um, hopefully with NIL too, he has an opportunity to make some money. So maybe that'll entice him to come back too a little bit more. But
Well, this is where NC State can show off its NIL strength and
yeah,
how things are going to be.
yeah. So, but that's just kind of my take. And then I don't think it affected the game. I mean, obviously it had an effect on her, but I don't know if it affected team morale that much. I thought, I just think you got to give Syracuse a lot of credit today. That crowd was into the game. They influenced the game. They rattled NC State on a couple of occasions. Their team was fired up, ready to go. They fed off the enthusiasm. And I think that played into things a lot more than Devin Leary being hurt today.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I think the Leary news certainly sucked the air out of the excitement of the game going into it for me at least, or
Yeah,
not all the excitement, because I definitely was into it, in crunch time in this game. Third quarter was pretty solid. I thought State had a fighting chance basically all the way until that final offensive drive where they weren't able to get a touchdown. And you just thought, okay, they've knocked on the door so many times. If they can't score a touchdown here, they're never going to be able to score a touchdown. And ultimately, Syracuse was able to deliver the nail in the coffin. But the Leary news certainly sucked the wind out of the air, just because I think you had a great post-game column, Matt, about how just the expectations change now for the season, and how Dave Doran said it best in a pregame or preseason interview that he had with the Wolfpacker for the Football Preview magazine, that what happens in week 6 if we're dealing with the third string quarterback, it obviously changes the goals and the potential the realistic accomplishments that this team can take on, considering the context in this year. So it's
yeah,
disappointing, because it's a year that you thought, maybe you get an ACC championship, maybe you go to a New Year's Six bowl, maybe you get to 10 wins, and 10 wins is technically still in play. They're going to have to, basically go the rest of the way with only one loss to spare. So it's going to be tough, but it changes the expectation. So it took the juice out of a top 20 matchup where you thought, if Leary was potentially going to be able to come back next month, you thought, okay, if maybe NC State can find a way to win this game on the road against a good Syracuse team, bye week coming up, a weak Virginia Tech team coming to Carter Finley on a Thursday night, you get to that Wake Forest game and you're thinking, okay, well, if NC State can get to 7-1 by that point and Leary comes back, then, still have all the makings of a special season. And not to say it still can't have, its own special flair to it, but ultimately with the context, it's going to be disappointing compared to what the preseason expectations were.
yeah. The crazy thing is, Dave said that he literally said, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he literally said, if everybody stays healthy, it's realistic to talk championship. But if I'm dealing with my third string quarterback in game 6, it may not be. Well, the third string quarterback is MJ Morris, and this was game 7 of the season, but still,
The
close
point
enough.
stands.
Close enough. It was, it's still, they were dealing with the third string quarterback in this game, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that just kind of drove home the reality of the situation.
Well, and I mean, you dealt with the second string quarterback last week in week 6, and I'm not, you know, we can go ahead and talk about Jack Morris's play, because I was impressed by, definitely his effort. I mean, the guy's definitely just pouring it out in terms of his abilities out there. And, I thought he was somewhat limited by very conservative play calling. You got to
Yeah,
tip your cap to Syracuse, who has a very good defense. Chambers is obviously going to be more limited, especially with his arm, than Leary was. But what he doesn't have with his arm, he is able to pick up with, some speed, and was able to make some big clutch runs a couple of which for first downs at crucial moments, but ultimately could not manage to get the offense in the end zone. You're just playing with lowered expectations, but I think Jack Chambers is still a solid backup quarterback that, can lead this offense to be good enough that, combined with a very strong defense, which hopefully remains healthy, took some hits this week, and a strong special teams and just good coaching all around, that, this team could still rally around and get to like an 8-win type season, which would still be very impressive considering the context, or 9 wins including a bowl, maybe even 10 including a bowl. So I don't know. Did you see Jack Chambers' play the same way? I thought, the problem is too, there's the wide receiver core is not strong. So
and they were short-handed this game too. Devin Carter. One thing I have to say about this game is this was about as short-handed, even compared to last year, the team got at the end of a game, because you were without Demi Sumakambe, you were without Devin Carter, left guard Chandler Javala left in the first half. Your some of the backup players like receiver Anthony Smith and tight end Cam Walker were unavailable. Still were without Trent Penix, who they were hoping to maybe get back this week. Definitely back next week. He's been cleared for next week. So, and then defensively, you lost Savion Jackson. You lost your 2 nose tackle, Corey Durden and Joshua Harris. You lost the hero from last week, Devin Boykin. I mean, all these guys were gone by the end of the game. It's really insane. It just shows you how physical the game is. Because Syracuse lost some guys too now. I mean, both team trainers were really busy in this game. But yeah, I especially agree with you on one thing. NC State was also kind of unfortunate in this game, and probably a little bit some of their own worst enemies, and that wasn't just player related. I agree with you. Yeah, you kind of had to pick up the pace there in the fourth quarter, I felt like. And NC State was very methodical with its possessions. They slowed the game down dramatically. They were essentially trying to repeat what they did in the second half against Florida State. They're probably a little bit, it cuts the margin for error pretty dramatically. And there comes a point where you had to start trusting Jack Chambers. I thought he made some throws in the second half. He certainly made some plays with his feet. And they moved the ball every possession in the second half, except when they got to the red zone. And then things got bad. But I did think they were a little bit, I don't know, conservative on play calling, but certainly methodical on play calling. And it cost them, because they had to use 2 timeouts in the second half. And those are things you can't give away in what's almost a 1-possession game. You cannot give away those timeouts. That's my biggest pet peeve about coaching decisions, is when coaches use timeouts in the second half. And both of them were trying to get a play in with the play clock running down. So I think the coaches are going to look back at this game and kind of wish that they maybe had changed their approach a little bit.
Yeah.
Give Syracuse credit. Their bye week clearly paid off. I'm sure they made some changes that NC State hadn't seen on film. That's the beauty of a bye week. NC State will get that opportunity against Virginia Tech coming up. And then you can't have mistakes like not being on the same page on the snap, on the shotgun, when you have 2nd and 2 at the 12-yard line and it gets a 12-yard loss. I think they had 2 or 3 false start penalties in the red zone.
Part of that's due to the crowd, but
exactly. And then somewhat look, the referees had nothing to do with the outcome of this game, but that last pass Garrett Schrader threw that really clinched the game on 3rd and 9 should not have been allowed. I mean, the tight end which clearly went into run blocking mode further than 5 yards down the field. That's a penalty that should have brought that play back.
It would have given NC State a fighting chance to get another offensive possession, see what it could do with 1 timeout.
Yeah.
But I will say, based on the entirety of the game, based on the fact that NC State won the time of possession battle, if they couldn't get in the end zone in 34 minutes,
it was unlikely.
I mean,
Syracuse was clearly.
It would have been nice to see them get another shot.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it was kind of you had the feeling that on the offensive possession, or excuse me, the one kick that field goal had to settle for a field goal. It's kind of like that. That seemed like a must get in the end zone type
Yeah.
situation.
Because that made it 17. I went from 17-6 to 17-9, and you really not only did you at that point you realize NC State's playing for overtime at that point, and
Yep.
that Syracuse had all the advantage because even if they didn't score, the best NC State could do with the time left, the pace with which they were going was get down and score, get a 2-point conversion tie, and then hope Syracuse with a great kicker in a dome doesn't get the last score and you go to overtime. So, and that was really a tall.
And
So
I'm
you're right.
not. I mean, that same possession. I'm not sure that if it wasn't 4th and 19, Chambers got sacked on 3rd and long after a false start penalty,
Mm.
which was the same possession where NC State burned one of those timeouts with 10 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Looked like Chambers was going to get it off on first 10. It was going to be close, but they didn't like the look. Still weren't able to punch it in. After that timeout, they did get one first down and then ended up stalling out,
And
deep
then
into the
I
red
believe
zone.
if that was the possession where Thea Thomas may have had the drop
Yeah,
back,
so
back of the end
honest,
zone.
I mean, I get, yeah, you also watched it on TV, but to me, it didn't seem like a drop. To me, it was a good throw by Chambers. I think if Thayer had to run the route again, maybe he would have been a little bit further away from the back end zone, just because I was more worried about. I don't think he was in feet wise.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think the reason why he kind of lost concentration was once the ball got to his hand, he shifted to making sure I get my foot down,
Yeah,
and he didn't.
even if he had secured it,
It
he
would
would
have
have
been
been
tough.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then that goes back to one of those self-inflicted.
Well, it's also
Uh,
where you missed Devin Leary. That chemistry between Leary and Thayer Thomas. I mean, how many balls has Leary thrown to Thayer versus how many balls has Chambers thrown to Thayer?
yeah,
Obviously, and they're coming in at different speeds. I can confirm that Devin Leary has one of a kind type velocity.
yeah. You
Um,
and your boys both can confirm that.
that's right.
But I'll also say this too. I want to make clear. I think Syracuse. You and I talked. This was kind of a reality check game, probably a reality check of what NC State's going to be for the rest of the year. Which look, they still have Virginia Tech, they still have Boston College, both at home. Both of those offenses are ranked below 100 in the country, and neither are known for great. They're not bad defenses. Virginia Tech, in particular, has a pretty solid defense, but they're not known. It's interesting. NC State played 3 ACC games. If you were to take the top 4 statistical defenses in the ACC, you know who they are? Syracuse,
Yeah.
NC State, Florida State, Clemson. So the NC State offense has faced the 3 top statistical defenses in the ACC so far. Now maybe NC State's offense has kind of helped their statistical rankings out. Who knows? But um,
Well, now they got a few of the best offenses coming up on the schedule.
they do. But they also have some of the defenses that are not quite as maybe and you get them in
This
a
is
home
true.
environment. So maybe you can get some a little bit more rhythm going with Jack Chambers. But look,
Got to see some more shots against the weaker defenses, though.
yeah, and a little bit more urgency in the play calling and that thing. But I will say this: Syracuse impressed me, and we said we're going to learn a lot about Syracuse. I don't think they're a great team. I think they kind of benefited from NC State being extremely short-handed, and then the situation they were in. But the reality is, part of the reason why NC State was in the game was because Garrett Schrader made 2 really big mistakes in the first half, throwing interceptions, one in the end zone right after he got away with nearly throwing one in the end zone, and another one taking a shot late in the first half down the field. That was Aiden White intercepted. So, and he nearly got away. Got away with another direct pitch late in the game. That
Dropped one.
Yeah, had one that would have been a pretty important play if he had held on to it.
How
Um,
many dropped interceptions you think NC State has this year?
a handful. Yeah, they got a handful. That's for sure.
Quite a few.
Yeah, but I think Syracuse makes the best with what they have. I think they got 3 great They got two great skill players and a quarterback who works well and complements those two skill players. Garrett Schrader, I don't think has a cannon arm. He's not going to throw 40-yard bombs over your head.
No.
Aranda
You could,
Gatson is perfect for what Schrader can do. He's perfect because he can catch all the passes Schrader can throw, and he's 6'5" and runs well enough to be a receiver. And he was just an extremely difficult matchup because they moved him around a lot. They're apparently very creative with how they get him, so you're not necessarily can just put one DB on him, because that would change the defense too much. So, and they got
well,
a
we were
great
talking before the podcast. I mean, Syracuse has two offensive weapons that are kind of the kryptonite of NC State's defense right now. As good as it is, where NC State has struggled is against a mobile quarterback and against big pass catching options. Just remember the Clemson game with that big old tight end that I thought was pretty explosive against NC State.
And and Johnny Wilson for Florida State, if he held on to a few of those passes, he would have had a big game against NC State. He's 6'7", so no question. I think that would, and that is something. And then you look at what's left. I mean, are there more mobile quarterbacks? Drake May can run a little bit, but obviously Malik Cunningham is the guy you're looking at Louisville.
And the Wake Forest offense.
Yeah, he doesn't really scramble that much, but yes, he is
got the mesh.
Yeah, got the mesh. So I think right now, okay. I'm in the house by myself, and it's Halloween, and I got the popo lights shining, and we got a new vacuum cleaner the other day, and that vacuum cleaner box just started shaking.
Oh.
Turns out that one of the cats had somehow jumped into the box. I'm not sure how he got in and how he got out, because that's a really tall box, because it was a already assembled vacuum cleaner. But
is there a metaphor here?
No, it's just something that was kind of interesting on Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, I thought somebody might have been coming into your podcast in there, but
no.
Okay.
So
I
think it was Rigby. We have a cat named Rigby.
Well, what kind of what? I don't know. I'm just tired after today.
It was a long day because you had the news with the injuries, and it was deflating, and then it was just kind of a deflating game. But the glass half full of me is like, look, you faced the best defenses. It was a hard assignment for Jack Chambers to play his first game. Syracuse had the advantage of a bye week. It wasn't just the quarterback that was injured. In hindsight, probably overly conservative approach for the game. Still had a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. And, if you cut a few breaks from the official, from the way the ball bounces, things could have been a bit different. So I would call to NC State fans, look, ACC title off the books. All right? We can all can confirm that. So you got to live with that. But Virginia Tech is still bad. Boston College is still bad. Louisville's not great. North Carolina can't stop anybody. Duke, as we recorded this podcast, Duke has 21 points at halftime, up 21-17 on North Carolina. Wake Forest will be extremely tall order, but they don't have a whole lot of luck in Raleigh.
It's true. Very home-dominated series.
Everybody is. So, I
will say, isn't it better though that NC State went to Clemson full strength? Like, it would have been worse if NC State had beaten Clemson in hindsight, and then this all happens.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's how you end up losing your opportunity. Whereas it already seemed as though that Clemson was probably going to advance on its own.
Yeah.
Leary or no Leary. But
and I'm just watching Clemson as we speak. They're up 24-14 and nearly took the opening kick of the second half. Will Shipley nearly took it to the house. So they're clearly starting to find their mojo. I guess I asked you,
Syracuse might give them a decent game.
Yeah. Probably not. But I'll ask you this. This is just because I put in my column and kind of recalibrate expectations, obviously.
Yeah.
What would be for you considering where things are for NC State and knowing what the schedule is?
Yeah.
What's the win total that you would call a good year?
Well, they're 5-2. They got 5 games left. Luckily, 2 of them are on the road. As I talked about earlier in the preview podcast this week, I saw 4 games on NC State's schedule remaining that I thought NC were considered losable. Syracuse being one of them. Obviously, we know the outcome. So there's 3 remaining. The first of which would be Wake Forest at home, and then the last 2 would be the final 2 games of the season, both on the road, Louisville and UNC. I just think all 3 of those teams possess offenses that are capable enough to put enough points on the board to make NC State very uncomfortable based on everything I've seen from this team this season. NC State would be really, I feel like they would definitely win the Big Ten West. They belong in the Big Ten West this year. Just strong defense, not great offense. Although I will say, I think with Demi Sumo coming back, with Devin Carter coming back, with Trent Penix coming back, I think that those types of weapons as well, not necessarily Carter because he's more of an explosive down the field pass catching threat, but Trent Penix having a reliable tight end and Demi Sumo back that I think has been really impressive with his abilities in open field situations. And you give him some screen passes, you give him some short, easy throws to Sumo. He can make some explosive plays happen. So that's going to give NC State a little bit of a boost. I am a little bit concerned about the offensive line at this point, although having a mobile quarterback in Jack Chambers helps with that a little bit. He was under pressure there at the end of that game. Also got to tip your cap to Syracuse. I'm filibustering here, but I guess what I'm saying is I would say the floor at this point is unchanged, and the floor is 7-5 regular season. That being that NC State would lose to Wake Forest, Louisville, and UNC. I think they win at least one of those, if not 2 of those games. So give me best case scenario 9-3 regular season.
So you would say, so in your book, 8-4 is a good year, considering where things are. With the floor is 7-5, you would kind of exceed the floor if you get an 8th win.
I think 8-4 is the expectation the rest of the way. I think 7-5 would be, it depends. Are we going to see more injuries? Like if
you just kind of assume that everything stabilizes.
I mean, if they stay, if they stabilize, if you get some pieces back, if you avoid big remaining pieces, losing them, then I would say 8-4 would be the expectation. 7-5 would be slightly disappointing. I think that's the floor. I mean, I would be very shocked to see this NC State team lose to Virginia Tech or Boston College at home. State's really good at home, and that's why I think that they have a chance to steal one from Wake Forest. UNC, NC State, always a heated game. Always, anybody can win that game. Going to be tough, I think, against that offense. But in Louisville, I think NC State will still probably be favored. By that, it's still possible, I guess. NC State's probably not going to be favored. Definitely not going to be favored against Wake. Definitely not going to be favored against UNC at this point. Probably, it's going to be close to a pick'em, I think, with Louisville. So, yeah, and then make the best of your situation with the bowl. It would be cool to see NC State go back to the Holiday Bowl, I think. Play because it was a cool bowl. It was a cool opportunity. They just never.
I think 8-4 would be a good year at this point. And I think that means handling business and then taking one of those toss-up / underdog games. You would have done good this year. You're right, because I kind of agree with you. I think Florida kind of 7-5. I think they're still favored against Boston College and Virginia Tech. I think UNC on the road in particular is a very tough matchup because they got a mobile quarterback, and they're going
to be looking for revenge.
And they got the best maybe the best all-around offense. I think Wake Forest is the best receiver set and best skilled players, but it's also a byproduct of what they do offensively. I think Carolina may be the best lineup and beat you offense, And so you only hope that they're terrible on defense, and you got to try to outscore them on defense. But so I think that's a real difficult matchup. But I think 7-5 kind of the floor, and if you can get one more, get to 8-4, which would put you at an even 500 in the ACC, I have to put a good year, considering what has happened with the injury situation and with the quarterback situation, and and then like you said, takes a shot in the bowl game. Probably at that point, I mean, realistically, you're talking about probably going somewhere like, I don't know, Charlotte perhaps, or maybe going to Boston, Fenway. Who knows? So
it'd be ideal to end the season ranked, but does
it'll
NC
be
State
hard.
fall?
That'll be hard. Yeah, if you get
NC
back to
State
being
falls out of the
ranked,
rankings this week. You think?
possible, because I think there's a double whammy of the Devin Leary news plus
Yeah,
losing by 2 touchdowns on the
they'll still
road.
get some votes. They'll still get some vote. I mean, but they'll fall for sure. I mean,
I think they will. But all right, who gets your game ball, Justin?
whew, haven't really thought about that.
I'm gonna give it to Christopher Dunn. 3 for 3 again today.
He
Yeah,
has been money,
yeah,
and he got an and one.
yeah. He did. That was a running into the kicker that he survived.
Which isn't in the NFL. Isn't that an automatic first down?
I think it's still 5-yard running.
Okay.
And that was close because I didn't,
Or it's roughing the kicker.
roughing the kicker is what you wanted, and I thought that was close to being roughing the kicker. There were a couple of incidences. There was one incident where Syracuse scored a touchdown. It looked like they had 2 guys moving at their line in motion. And for whatever reason, the official took the flag out of his back pocket. Great job by the ACC Network crew to pick that up. They told the official putting the flag out of his pocket and then holding on to it for whatever reason. That was kind of a tough break too, because that takes the touchdown off the board. You don't know what happens after that, but that would have taken a touchdown off the board. So, a couple of tough breaks there, but I give it to Chris Dunn because as long as he keeps making field goals, he gets a game ball. 2 weeks in a row for Chris Dunn.
Okay. I'll give mine to Aronde Gadsden. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, he is probably the most worthy of a game ball here. But I'll turn to the defense. How about Tanner Engel getting? Was that his first pick of the season? Can't remember one prior.
I think he had one prior, but I'm not sure.
Maybe, I don't know. First or second of the year. Normally, run stopper, good blitz, safety, can be vulnerable in coverage, but nice pick today. Second on the team with 7 tackles. Always a go-getter. No 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalties, so that's always good for Mr. Engel.
I think Aiden White, by the way, continued to his interception.
Oh, yeah, and Aiden White's equally worthy.
I think he's reached a point where he might be considered quietly one of the better corners in the ACC now. So.
Yeah, and he's a sophomore, right?
Yeah, one of those third-year sophomores. So he's been at NC State 3 years, but technically listed as a sophomore.
Think he's got stock?
Nah. But I think it's interesting. We'll get into all this much later, but I actually think some people who predicted a dramatic fall off for NC State after this year will be proven to be a little bit premature if they were to take a real deep look at what's coming back. And
going to be very interesting if Devin Leary comes back.
Yep.
Run it back 2.0. All right. Well, we'll wrap up this podcast. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting conversation midweek. Bye week, right? So I guess we'll have a bye week conversation at some point. Maybe we'll do that Wednesday. To be determined. You'll have a podcast soon. But that's going to do it for this one. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to us. Apple, Spotify, Google Play. Plus, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can always watch us there, where you can see Matt's spooky Halloween lighting, set the vibes for this podcast episode. Give us a like and a comment while you're at it. When you're on YouTube, you can follow us on social media at the Wolfpacker on Twitter is our main account, at JustinHWill if you want to follow me personally. Give us a like on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on thewolfpacker.com, and head over to thewolfpacker.com. Take advantage of the special deal going on right now for just $10. You can get premium subscription to thewolfpacker.com and the On3 network, entire On3 network, for just $10. Takes you through the beginning of next football season, so end of next August. Great deal. Unlocks access to the message boards. You get premium recruiting information, premium NC State athletics news, intel before it hits the mainstream. So if you want to be a plugged-in NC State fan, you need to be a member of the Wolfpacker.com, and you can be one for just $10. It's going to take you through the better part of the next year here. And last but not least, thank you very much to our sponsors, RogueShop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com. Head over to RogueShop.com now for all of your CBD and Delta 8 legal cannabis needs. You can get gummies, tinctures, edibles, lotions, all kinds of great products that are going to be able to help you with that stress and anxiety. If you have trouble sleeping, inflammation, chronic pain, great natural remedies to help with some of those things. Like I said earlier in the podcast, NC State fans, I'd be hard pressed to find an NC State fan that doesn't have at least one of those things. I know for sure that I could probably check off many of those boxes. So head over to RogueShop.com, use some of their products. If you don't know what you're looking for, you need some help, or you want to learn a little bit more about what they have to offer, use their chat feature. They're a great small business. So you're going to be speaking to an actual person when you're chatting with them on RogueShop.com. Head over there now. They support us. You support us, and you can support us by supporting them. So head over to RogueShop.com and take care of them. Buy some great products. Okay, that's going to do it. For Matt Carter, I'm Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.